Are you really depressed, or are you just doing it for the vibes?
What are you doing? Are you trying to get us canceled?
Fuck white people. Fuck.
Hi, my name is Kyra.
Hi, my name is Madden.
Hi, my name is Sharon, and this is
2.5 minorities.
Okay, guys.
Beep, beep, beep,
So
beep.
today's topic is the romanticization
Of
of mental
illness.
And this topic is actually
Not a good thing, but
Ooh.
yeah,
okay.
not good.
Go on.
But this topic was recommended to us by a friend
Of
Name.
Mine, Hannah.
Shout out Hannah
Yes,
for
we
suggesting
love
this today's
you.
episode.
Yes, guys. Guys, we need you to feed.
Oh, and if you want to recommend a topic, hit us up.
Yes, and just a little side note, last episode didn't do so well because we were kind of late on a promotion.
Somebody didn't promote it. Her name starts with a K and ends with Ira.
I did the promotions. So, it's okay. We forgive you for not, if you didn't listen to the last one, it's always going to be there, but just know.
Yeah,
we need y'all
to feed for this
episode.
Yeah.
Feed.
Why are you not doing it?
Fiend.
Alright. Okay, wait, let's be serious. Okay, because it's a serious topic. Okay.
What is the romanticization of mental illness?
Okay, so like I feel like this really came up in like especially like the 2010s and like Tumblr culture.
Yes.
Where like it was like very like, oh, I'm depressed and like a Lana Del Rey like Y2K kind of way.
Okay,
it's
let's explain the background behind Lana Del Rey Y2K I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And also like with the general rise of social media, it became more prevalent too.
What is the Lana Del Rey thing, guys?
Okay, so like, if you were on Tumblr, which I was not, but I was like towards the end of the Tumblr era. So like, basically, a lot of like 14-year-old or like teenage girls would like, obviously being a teenager is really hard, so they would post on like Tumblr stuff about their feelings and stuff, but it kind of turned into people venting online, which kind of morphed into like people making depression and like anxiety and like mental illness into like kind of an aesthetic. So like it was like I'm so broken. It's like pictures of the guy from American Horror Story where he's like,
is it the guy with the skull face?
Yeah, that I forget his name.
I know that guy, yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like a lot of it came from like people actually like venting, and which turned into people like kind of like idealization of like
the idea of being sick.
Yeah, it's like
ill.
like this like romanticization of like this melancholic like, but it's this very, it's like it's not even like actual like mental illness. It's just like pretty white girls crying with like perfect mascara,
oh my God, and then
black and white photos.
I saw this in like 2020. They would put like the red lipstick like under their eyes to make their eyes puffy.
Oh yeah.
And then they would make like they'll just
there was also the like punched makeup trend.
Oh my God, that was so strange.
That was not okay. That came up under fire for a lot of reasons, meaning like it romanticized like domestic violence and abuse.
Yeah.
But basically, to sum up what they both just said, it originated from like a community that was supposed to be to bring awareness to mental illness and to be a safe space for people who were suffering with mental illness. But it morphed into this like overshared, overused form of like white aesthetic crying girls.
Yeah.
It became all about like looking and appearing sick, so you could be like, well, I'm not all right, and then they would be like, oh, I haven't taken my meds. What meds?
What
girl?
meds?
What, your ibuprofen or what?
Oh, okay.
Like, not saying that like pretty white girls can't be like ill or something. Like, cause obviously like a lot of the times when it comes to depression, you can't like look at someone and be like, oh yeah, they're depressed. Like that's the whole point. Like it's not something that you can visibly always tell, because sometimes the happiest people are the most depressed.
Yeah, it's like the prettiest eyes cry the most tears. But this is literally that. Like it's people like oh, it's kind of like this like weird like fascination with like being like this melancholic,
hauntingly beautiful.
Yes, and it's like yeah, it's kind of like not other girls type of way. Like it's like I'm not people at school while they're at parties. I'm off in the bathroom crying.
I eat
with
lunch
my
in the bathroom
while "Sad Girl" by Lana Del Rey plays in the background, and it's like, wow, okay.
This can also sprout from like media, like TV shows and stuff, where a lot of the time characters are supposed to depict like actual mental illness, but a lot of people see this as like, oh, they're so interesting or like hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah.
And they want to recreate the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they try to take on forms of mental illness themselves to seem, I guess, more interesting or just like different. Like,
yeah. This is like that. I remember seeing this post that was like, people romanticization like depression, but literally when I was depressed, I wouldn't get up to brush my teeth, and then people would be like,
in the comments, I
like,
wanted to talk about that. They're like, they romanticize like bed rotting. They're like, oh, I rotted in bed all day. But then when someone actually posts about like rotting in bed like for months at a time, even years, they'll like shame. They'll be, that is so disgusting. What do you mean you didn't brush your teeth for like 3 months or something? Like
I was
because they're
depressed.
They're ill.
Yeah, and then and then this comment really sums it up, where it's like, people are so shocked that people. Wow, I didn't know depression gets so extreme that people don't brush their teeth. Depression gets so extreme, people kill themselves. Like, oh my god.
I saw that exact video.
Yes,
bro.
and I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so let's transition to like talking about why do y'all think that people have like such a fascination with like depression, like mental illness and stuff?
Well, I'm gonna speak from personal experience. When I was younger, I was I don't know why, so obsessed with the idea of being ill, because like I don't know why, because I thought it made me like cool,
interesting,
and
different, and like sometimes we just want people to pay attention to us, I guess. Like you know how a lot of kids, they like fake drowning, like so that a lifeguard might try to say that.
Yeah, to see if people care. Yeah,
I've never done that. Oh my god. Like, why?
And it's just like,
pretend I was drowning so that a lifeguard.
Oh, that is a you experience.
But they never came. So.
Yeah, and I think it's like a mix of like people wanting like attention, because I think a lot of it like it does like stem from people actually having like mental problems, and it's like I think for a lot of like actually like depressed people, it's kind of this way for them to like kind of like get through each day, because it's already so hard living with like a mental illness. They want to like, they're trying to channel it, so it's like not in like a depressed normal kind of way. It's in a Lana Del Rey sad girl, like
make it so like they can actually.
It's like coping.
Like
it's like a coping mechanism. Coping
mechanism.
What? Anyways,
I hate y'all.
I feel like another factor could be like people who are already like depressed or have mental illness, they try to, I guess, kind of exaggerate so that they feel like they can justify their mental illness. Like whenever someone's like talking about their mental illness, sometimes they'll make it seem worse than it actually is, so that people will actually see them as like a mentally ill person, because they feel like they have to justify their suffering.
Yeah. Especially if it's an illness that is really normalized and like
normalized.
Yeah, okay. Normalized. It's
mental
not
illness should be normalized, but it shouldn't be seen as like
it shouldn't be idealized.
Every single person.
Yeah, like because people are so like desensitized to the fact that like some illnesses, although so many people suffer from it, it's still a huge issue. Like it isn't like normal. Like it's not meant to be seen as something like, oh well, everyone has anxiety, so it's okay.
Right.
Well, you shouldn't be living with anxiety. Like no. Like,
it's like we should bring like attention to it, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't go to the point where we're actually like idolizing like mentally ill people. And like this is like not even me like trying to like come for mentally ill people. It's just like we should acknowledge that those are actual problems, and we shouldn't like kind of like commodify it in a way that like it's like a watered down version of like depression. Like it's all like all they say is like the like crying in the bathroom, like perfectly mascara like running down like a white face, and it's like people don't see that it's to the point where it's like people actually kill themselves. And I feel like a lot of this comes from like shows like 13 Reasons Why, where it's like kind of like the revenge suicide trope came into play, and I'm like, oh my god, like suicide should not be treated as like a thing that like to get back at your bullies. Like it should be treated as like
the way I've actually thought about that before.
Yeah, it's just like it's oh my god, like it's just like people like it's like people don't realize that these shows are like not supposed to be like real. These are supposed to be like fiction,
Yeah,
and
they're
it's
supposed to like spread awareness too.
It's and this is like the same thing with like Euphoria, where people say like that Euphoria glamorizes like depression stuff. I don't personally. You can think that, but like personally, I don't think Euphoria.
I think they were real with it. They were.
Yeah.
They showed the struggles of someone going.
I feel like the people that actually made it into like a trend or commodified it were like the audience, the people that were the like the glitter into like a makeup trend. Like, messy, girl, depressed.
Because like I feel like this is kind of still on the topic of Euphoria and like mental illness, but like I feel like they really did a good job of showing what happens when someone's struggling mentally, as well as like with stuff like substance abuse and like abusive relationships. Like they did a good job, but the people who were watching it were the ones who turned it into a trend.
They don't realize that the aesthetic part of it, like with like with the glitter and stuff, that's because it's a visual art form. Right? It's literally, it's not meant to be like them romanticizing it. It's them like trying, it's like a painting. Like it's them like showing the emotion and like the like kind of like trying to express it in a way that audiences can understand, but audiences like muffled that with them trying to like romanticize it, and then some people actually did romanticize it, and like they're like, oh yeah, I'm like a coke addict, but like in a Rue from Euphoria kind of way.
I was so irritated because Rue truly struggled in that show. I never fully finished like past like season 1, but she truly struggled in that show. Right. Every time I would see clips on TikTok, people would be like, oh, this is low-key me. No, it's not.
No, it's
Put the phone down. Right. Put the phone down. What are you doing?
Like, we shouldn't be. Rue's entire point of her character is that she is like trying to evolve from, because she is like a bad person in the show, but it shows like the good parts of her and the bad parts of her.
And it brings awareness to like what can happen when you use like those kind of substances. But when you take that and instead of using it as like a warning, like, hey, I shouldn't abuse these substances, you're like, oh no, I want to be more like Rue.
Yeah, because it's people trying to replicate what they see on TV.
Exactly, and that's what the same thing with mental illness is, where people like will see it being represented in like television, which everyone screams for representation until they actually see it. But instead of like using it as a form of awareness, they want to replicate it and become that character.
Right.
And this so this is why we as an audience have to be really careful on how we consume media and what we make of it, but also. Sometimes in ways when we take this media, it belittles the experiences of people who actually suffer these things.
Yeah.
Like, and also when we turn it into a trend, we're commodifying it. A lot of big corporations can also make these mental illness trends into a product that they can sell to you yet again. Like, for example, like, have you ever seen those teas where it's like anxiety just on the front?
Oh yeah.
It's like sad girl.
Yeah.
Like the anti-social club.
Yeah, the anti. I was gonna say that.
Oh my god.
But okay, I wanna. Okay, on the topic of like sad girl, that reminds me of like Lana Del Rey's whole legacy. We're like, okay, so if you don't know, somehow, Lana Del Rey is a singer that came out in the 2010s, and basically she's
been around for that long.
Yes, girl, she's been around since like the 2000s.
I did not know that, guys. Oh my god.
So like Lana Del Rey, like her whole like thing is that she sings like these like, or like this is what it kind of used to be like when she was first starting.
For the culture.
Not that, but it's like she sings like these melancholic like ballads about like her own experiences of like abuse and like substance abuse and stuff. But a lot of like that's also this time when Tumblr and like people romanticizing mental illness started coming up, so she got lumped in with a lot of that. And so I want to ask y'all, do y'all think artists like Lana Del Rey are romanticizing mental illness and like abuse and stuff, or do y'all think she's like giving her own experiences?
So this is like a big debate going on, like the actual ethics of like sad
sad girl
art.
pop.
That's reminding me
like
of Mitski
art
right
in
now.
general.
Oh, I was about to talk about that,
I'm
but let's
about to
finish
talk about
this.
Mitski,
Yeah.
I feel like it is good, like because
Mhm.
obviously you should like not be allowed to make art about your personal experiences and emotions.
Exactly.
It's just you have to be aware of how it impacts your audience, and
Mhm.
you have to, I guess, remind them that this isn't like an ideal. It's
Right.
like you're just trying to show them
Right.
what people can go through.
Right.
And I feel like when it comes to artists like that are similar like Mitski, a lot of people said that like at a certain point they couldn't listen to her anymore because they would just like her music, since it's like sad girl, which I don't, maybe it's just me, but I don't think it's really sad girl. I feel like it's really the way you interpret it.
Right.
Like that music, even Lana Del Rey too. It can be sad girl for you if that's how you want to like experience it. But for someone like me who really enjoys listening to Mitski in her free time, even when I'm not sad, when I'm angry, when I'm happy, like it doesn't matter the emotion for me. I can listen to it and feel like nothing. But for certain people, they complain that like whenever they would listen to her music, they would get like transported back to a time where they were depressed and everything, and then they would have to stop listening to her.
Yeah, because that's more like personal.
Exactly.
Right.
And then they were like, "Oh well, I don't like Mitski because she's really sad, and every time I listen to her, I get reminded of like a time where I was really sad." And I'm like, I get that, but that isn't her intention.
Yeah.
That isn't her
And-
intention.
Oh my gosh. I've
really happy.
yeah,
Right?
and people have to be aware that like it's these artists shouldn't be like people like Mitski, like the people that are always like, oh, Mitski is like the queen of like sad girl pop. Like, why are
even
you?
Mitski herself
Sad
is like I don't
Yeah,
want,
she's outspoken about that.
She's like, no more sad girl, like enough. Like it's like not even a thing anymore. Because Mitski herself, she is not sad. The woman is fine. She's okay.
Right. And people like, it's like, it's people, and like for a lot of people like Mitski, like a lot of artists, it's people that like their audience, especially because she has like a more like melancholic kind of persona. Yeah, I feel like people lump that in with like they want like, how do I explain this? Like they want like the appearance of being like mentally ill and stuff.
So
because,
they listen to those kind of creators.
Right. Yeah. I'm not depressed in like a I don't brush my teeth kind of way. I'm not depressed in a Mitski, Lana Del Rey, like sad girl black and white photos. Like it's people making it to like an aesthetic, and I'm like, oh, like these artists shouldn't be like made into like the poster child for depression.
Actually suffer from mental illness, feel like they have to prove themselves because they're questioning themselves whether they're actually mentally ill or if they're just trying to seem like just aesthetic.
And I feel like it also affects the people who listen to those artists for fun. Like then, because people are like, "Oh, you need to check on your friends who listen to Mitski or the ones who listen to Lana Del Rey. Make sure they're okay. They're okay. Like they're just listening to them. Like it doesn't." Like, not saying you shouldn't check on your friends. Like, obviously, check on your friends because you never know.
Yes.
But like at the same time, just because your friends, just because your friends listen to a certain artist doesn't mean like they're ill or they're depressed. It's just
they like that artist.
Like the amount of times I've like introduced myself to someone and said like, "Oh yeah, my favorite artist is Mitski," and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you like a really sad person?" No, I'm not. I'm like actually, I think I'm a really like bubbly, joyful person. But as soon as I mention Mitski, everyone's like, "Oh my god, why do you listen to such sad music? Do you not get sad listening to her?" No, I don't.
Right.
Like,
and I hate the people that like, especially for Mitski, because I love Mitski. I hate the people that like water her down into like just like a sad girl singer. Because obviously she does have sad songs, but
that's not who she is.
Right.
She speaks on issues.
Right. Because why is it okay? Not to sound mean, but why is it blonde white girls posting themselves to your best American girl?
Like that song is not for you.
Right. And that's like
those girls thirst trapping to the Sage song.
Oh my gosh. When people thirst trap to what's it called, Ethel Cain to Gibson Girl, I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's Gibson Girl by Ethel Cain is literally about how girls sexualize themselves for the male gaze, and like especially like trans girls. Just Liquid
Smooth. Do not thirst trap to Liquid Smooth, bro. That song is literally about hypersexualization.
Yes.
Come on.
And it's like, it's like people it's like artists like they people don't realize that artists are artists. Like it's art. Like it's not them making depression and like other mental illness into like into like commodifying it. It's the people it's the audience that are like consuming that water it down into a way that is like an aesthetic, Lana Del Rey, like black and white, and it's people. Oh, it just like frustrates
That's like
me.
they're strapping to the national anthem.
Oh my god! And like,
right, not my exact words, but yeah.
But yeah, for sure. And like, I feel like the problem.
Okay. What does that mean?
It's like they're starting to the national anthem.
Stop. Don't be me. But like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yes, Mitski, my national anthem. Yes.
Yes, but continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, but it's like, and you know those videos on TikTok that are like three signs that you might have like ADHD or something. Oh
my gosh. People like romanticizing like autism and like neurodivergent people. Oh my god, I love my autistic boyfriend. Oh, okay.
Oh. And then they're like,
you can say like, I love my boyfriend and he's autistic. Like, yeah.
I love that autistic boy.
Yes, this is this is something I care.
Not autistic. Right. He's just dumb.
Okay, this is something I care so much about. Oh my gosh, this is something I'm really passionate about because I have family members who are autistic. I hate that people like romanticize like ADHD and autism because
anxiety too.
Yes, because my family members have been like bullied their entire lives in that because they're not autistic in like a I love my hyperfixation. Yes, he's like autistic because he can't talk to people and he's nonverbal and I hate that people like romanticize autism and stuff because my family members have been like bullied for that their entire lives and I hate that people now are like making it into a trend because those are real people and it frustrates me so much.
Like they'll have an obsession with like a show or something. They'll be like, "This is my autistic hyperfixation." No, it's not. You're not autistic. Why are you like self-diagnosing? Like, I hate
and like I get self-diagnosis because some doctors genuinely do not want to help you. Like some doctors will literally tell you you're not autistic because they don't want the burden of it.
On like certain demographics.
Yes, but that shouldn't be the point where you're actively making yourself like aligning with those traits. Like, babe, you were not hyperfixating stuff on 2 months ago. Because what are you talking about?
Right? And then like those videos when they're always like, 3 signs you might have ADHD or autism. It's like the most like basic things that everyone does.
Right.
So now it deludes people into thinking that like, oh yeah, I'm autistic or oh yeah, I have ADHD when they really don't. And it's just like they have like a lot of energy because they're a child.
Right. And I don't want to get it twisted. If you think you're autistic, you can generally get tested and stuff. But you shouldn't be changing yourself and you shouldn't be
trying to make yourself more like quote unquote autistic or what you think in your head.
Because autism is a spectrum. And oh my gosh, I hate because my relative is on the opposite side of the spectrum, but people only focus on one part of the spectrum and it frustrates me so much. I'm sorry, guys.
Like
I get really heated about this.
The hyperfixation on like shows, but then when it's someone who
it's
it's someone who like
no, you keep going.
When it's someone who can't read like social cues, then they're like, they're the weird kids.
Yes, and then they treat actual autistic people like they're like
trash.
Like they're so cringe. Oh my god, they literally have a mental disorder. Oh my gosh.
What do you want them to do?
Like this poses another like issue where people are turning like actual mental illnesses into like buzzwords or like trending words like, oh, I was so depressed today, or oh, I have so much anxiety for this like performance or whatever.
Oh, I'm so OCD. Yeah.
Or I'm so OCD or like I'm so ADHD. Or,
I have stuff to say about that.
It's not an adjective, you know that, right? It's a mental illness.
Right, it's a noun. It's a noun. You. Oh my gosh, that makes me so mad. I'm sorry, guys.
Like, you can't be like, oh my god, I'm so OCD for this.
That reminds me of something else. Like acoustic.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Guys, I already know.
It's the acoustic.
Jamie's gonna love this episode because
I know Jamie.
Yeah, he was.
Shout out our friend Jamie.
He was talking about this on his story about how people like will be like, oh, are you acoustic or are you artistic? Like to talk about like autistic people, and I'm just like, you're weird. You're strange.
Right.
It's
like are you 10? Are you 10?
Right.
Like, actually, are you 10?
It's like when saying like autistic became trivial or like you could get canceled for that they turned it into like acoustic, so now it's just a joke.
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah.
because everyone's saying it.
Like at that point, you might as well just say the R slur because that's what like you're practically just implying
like,
at this point.
It started off as like actual autistic people, as like a signal for actual autistic people, like an inside joke.
Yeah.
But then other people started leeching onto that and be like, oh, they're joking about it, so I can joke about it too.
They just
but
want
you're literally just being ableist.
They just want
like, oh my god, like
that's literally it. They just
and oh my gosh, and it'll be videos on like Instagram Reels of like literal children, and people will be like, is he a caustic? Is he? Or they'll just straight up use the R slur, and I'm like, oh my god, what is wrong with you?
When they say, are you retarded?
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
Oh my
At that
gosh.
point, just say the R slur because what are you doing?
Right.
I'm shocked how comfortable you feel saying that out loud.
Like, I'm right. Like the goal of the audacity of some people nowadays is actually crazy.
Well, I feel like it was always.
I mean, yeah, but like, people are so bold right now.
They never considered the R slur like a real thing. Like people just openly say it, but like, just. Why? What are you doing? Literally, like, because when they were just saying the R slur, like, okay, like that's already like all one thing, but now they're saying restarted, acoustic, artistic. Like now you're just implying that you're ableist. Like at this point, just shout it out to the whole world. I'm ableist. Like, oh my god.
And not to get too off topic, but I feel like this is the case for so many like social issues. It's like people actually bringing up representation and like awareness for those issues, and then other people start leeching onto it and making it a trend, like queerness. Oh my god, the people. Oh, in 2020, I thought it was trans. That was so embarrassing.
When I used to be bi, when I used to be gay.
Oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing.
During those trends, they only said that kind of stuff because one, it was a trend, and two, because they wanted a reason to be homophobic while being like, oh, it's okay because I'm gay.
Right, or the BLM people were like, Hello Kitty says ACAB. What? Y'all want to?
Hello Kitty is a children's show. What are you talking about?
And y'all want to? It's like these people make it into like an aesthetic or into a trend, but they don't realize that those are actual issues. Like with the Hello Kitty says ACAB.
No, right?
They're not. They're showing that, but they're not showing the black people being killed by cops and stuff. They're not bringing actual attention to it. It's just another way that they can virtue signal other like people. And it actually makes me mad because people watering down social issues just makes me so irritated.
And then turning it into TikTok trends, like it's not a trend. These are things that people are actually going through every single day. So when you're saying like, oh, it's okay if I say the F slur because I'm actually gay, when like you're just doing it for the trend, like it's just like, boy, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh, and this, oh my gosh.
Kyra, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, and also, okay, I low-key forgot what I was gonna say.
But it's okay.
She was holding that thought. She went.
I got it. I don't got it.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Okay. Wait. I feel like we're getting too outside, but yeah. Circling back.
I feel like when it comes to again with those like videos with people like online saying like if you have these like 3 things you might be autistic or whatever, and when it goes to like self-diagnosing, then people start self-medicating, and then it becomes a whole nother issue because then they actually start getting ill because of the fact that they're taking like stuff that is not meant for them. And
yeah, it's like a part of this that is just like irritating and annoying that people are, but at a certain extent, it's like this can become an actual problem.
Yeah, it's like concerning because like now people are taking like they're like they have the idea that's been put like seen by or they have this idea that has been like procured to them by people on social media that they might be ill. So now they're going like taking meds that they know that those kind of people might take, thinking that like, oh yes, I suffer from this.
Yeah.
When they're in fact not, and now it's only like deteriorating their health more and more and more, making them actually ill.
Right.
And like now it's an actual problem, but now they keep like thinking like, oh, these problems are because I'm autistic, or these problems are because I have ADHD. But no, you're just taking meds that are not meant for you.
And like, I'm not this is not just to get the record straight, this is not against like self-diagnosis and stuff, because sometimes I feel that self-diagnosis like actually is necessary, because some of these doctors and stuff, they're not trying to actually help you, they're just trying to get done.
Just trying to get your money.
Right.
And your parents like don't want to take you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very like, it's like such a slippery slope where it's like, yes, like sometimes self-diagnosis is necessary, but if you notice that you're actively changing the way you act to align with those things, babe, you're just doing it for a trend, and it's actually really weird.
Actually, right. But sometimes like it's like kids and they don't even realize it, like that they're changing themselves just to fit this like persona that they have like been like seeing on the internet, and it's just like kind of sad because like now you're making yourself seem what you think in your mind is more autistic or more like OCD or whatever. Like especially when they would lay out the color pencils, they're like, "Oh, my OCD is acting up," and then they would straighten everything together because they're like, "Oh, this is making me." When in reality OCD is like oh, you touch something and now you're washing your hands. And you touch something else, you're washing your hands. Like this whole like
people
idea.
Pick and choose like the kind of like kind of geeky and like cutesy parts of it, but they want to push out and they actually. Yes, this is literally like a form of fetishization at this point.
Is always connected.
Oh,
yes. Like, no, because like seriously, like for the longest time, because I always saw like OCD portrayed, like when I was younger, portrayed as oh, well something's like out of line, and that's making my OCD act up. So I always thought it was that until I found out the like real struggles of people with OCD, like when they would like lock their doors like 5 times because they don't think that they locked it, or when they would like wash their hands after touching something like every single second because they think they're still dirty, and they spend like hours washing their hands because they believe that they're actually dirty when they're not.
Right.
And like it's like this is an actual thing that gets in your mind. And even like people would tell them like online when they were showing their real issues that like, oh, just stop washing your hands, or oh, just stop like making yourself think.
Oh my gosh.
Like they can't, because that's the way that their mind works. You can't tell them to just stop.
And then people will literally bully actual mentally ill and like neurodivergent people. Babe, a week ago you were just talking about how you're so autistic, or like, oh my god, what are you talking? You bullet like, oh my god, I don't even know how to say it.
This can also go for like eating disorders and stuff.
Oh yes.
Oh my god, this does go for eating disorders.
It's a whole another thing, but it's generally falling under the same effects.
Usually they think the same way as someone like with a mental illness would.
Right. I feel like eating disorders, the line is kind of, I wouldn't say more blurry, but it's hard to tell with like, especially hyperconnectivity these days, where like you see so much of this and that, and like people saying like, oh, I have an eating disorder, whatever, I didn't eat lunch today, but people don't realize, and this actually leads to people developing eating disorders because
because it's what they see on TV and stuff.
Disorders, it's more like internal, but eating disorders can be brought upon yourself.
Yeah,
like
that's
easier. So I feel like this also leads to like actual eating disorders. Like when you see a TV show, like oh, like insatiable. Oh, she's bulimic. Like oh yeah, I'll do that too. Or like TikTok audios where it's like oh, you can always be thinner. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, like the looks maxing like trend of it all, and it's like
it's like freaking One-Youngism. Like we mentioned this.
It's like what?
One-Youngism.
One-Young, the K-pop idol.
Yeah, and then they would like not eat and be like, oh, I want to like because like One-Young is like really really skinny, so they would like make themselves think like, oh, I'm really really fat and I want to look like her, so I'll stop eating, I'll stop drinking stuff, and like, girl, you're gonna die. Right. Like you need to eat. Like
and this is you can go.
Okay, so I saw a video the other day. It was like people need to start like warning people about the actual like effects of having a mental illness or like having an eating disorder, like the same way they warn people about like smoking, like back in the 90s or whatever. Like some girl's brain literally started eating itself because she was like anorexic.
That's oh my gosh, scary. I shouldn't.
Like she could not function. She couldn't say her name because her brain started eating itself. And like she looked like a zombie. And this is like like eating disorder is not just like, oh yeah,
oh, I skipped
your
lunch.
Your hair falls out.
Right.
Your nails start breaking.
Because you're not getting the nutrients that you need.
Exactly.
Right. This is like irreparable damage.
Right.
And this goes back to people picking and choosing parts of like mental disorders and stuff that fit into like their kind of like twisted aesthetic. Like, yeah, oh, I'm like they'll romanticize things like anorexia and stuff because you get so skinny and stuff, and like you can't. Or like what was, oh my gosh, it was like this aesthetic I heard the other day that actually made me mad. It was like 90s model, like coked up 90s model core.
Oh my god.
And like people romanticize that. They choose like this is not even like a current phenomenon. This is not even like this is not even special to like this decade. This has gone back like years and years, because like people in like the Victorian era and stuff would like romanticize tuberculosis, which is like a type of like STD, right? Actually, wait, I actually don't remember. But like tuberculosis, because like the ideal standard back then was like really pale skin because they were quite racist, and like when you get tuberculosis, you get really pale and like kind of blushy because that's literally your body dying because trying to like sustain blood. Yes, and people romanticize that, and that's literally like what it is right now too. Like people picking and choosing like the kind of aesthetic, quote unquote, parts of it, and like while blocking out the parts like they don't realize that your hair falls out when you're bulimic. You throw up so much that your teeth start rotting because literally the acid burns your teeth, and like it's people. This is why representation of like actual mental disorders is so important, and like why it's so important.
The right representation.
Right. This is.
You know what show really does good with representation of mental illnesses? BoJack Horseman.
I love BoJack Horseman.
Genuinely, everything comes back to BoJack Horseman because they represent each and like everything so well. Like they showed like how like Diane in the show, she was dealing with depression and she started like losing weight and like she couldn't get anything done because all she could do was like literally like rot in bed.
Right.
Like, instead of like writing her book that she planned to have done by like the end of the month or something. Like every time she would try to do something, she would just like go back to her bed and like think about it for hours and hours instead of actually getting up and doing it because she didn't have the like strength, like the motivation to keep going with anything. And then when she finally like it showed also the struggles of like having like a bad body image. Like when she started finally taking her meds, she started to gain weight because that's what like antidepressants do. Like they make you gain weight.
Right.
And then she started to feel like insecure with herself. And like, cause at the time she was in a relationship, she felt like her lover no longer loved her because she thought like, well, now I'm gaining weight. I no longer look the same as I did when I first started taking these meds.
Right.
But like over time as she went on, she started to become happier because obviously she's taking her meds. She's doing the things that she needs to do to like function as a human being because she has an illness. She started to accept herself and her body, and like she started to realize like, hey, it doesn't matter whether I'm like fat or skinny,
right?
Or, like as long as I'm like mentally okay, like I'm
right.
there.
Do
like,
what's good for you.
Like she has she realized that like finally like I've come so far. Like I went from a point where I couldn't even get up in the morning to now being able to write multiple books.
And that's what's so important, that these shows and stuff show like the actual reality of it, because I've even seen people start romanticizing BoJack Horseman.
What?
Like BoJack is so me. BoJack literally tried to sleep with a 17-year-old.
BoJack is a bad person. That's the whole point.
Right, and literally, like it's so important that you show the terrible, horrible parts of mental illness because it leads like and impressionable people to not try to like change themselves for the aesthetic of it. That's why good representation matters so much.
Yeah, and like it really showed in that show because I really love that show. Everyone needs to watch that show.
Yes.
It really showed how trauma, like childhood trauma, can really like make someone horrible. Right. And like because like initially it's not like really his fault because he had a horrible childhood, like an abusive mother and father. But it gets to a point during his like life where he's like 40 or 50 and like you can no longer blame your trauma for the things that you're doing. You're a bad person because you choose to be.
Right, because you're not making an effort to amend for your mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I found it really ironic that the most like human person in the show was a dang horse. Like they really showed like the duality of a man, like how he went from like being like on top of the world, like in the 90s because he was so loved by everyone, to them truly showing how horrible of a person he was when he took advantage of Sarah Lynn and everything that happened in that show because it was a disaster.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. 6 months.
But yeah,
6 seasons.
Off.
Watched it.
Let's fly away from that. But yes, I love BoJack Horseman. If you want to watch it, please watch it. But yeah, going back to like just general talking about this.
Another theory that I saw on this girl's YouTube channel, I forgot what her name was, but it was a theory that we inflict like mental illness and we romanticize it on ourselves because like in the past, like human nature is to like crave suffering and misery. Like that's why all these super cruel torture methods and like wars and like ethnic cleansings were brought upon simply because people crave suffering of others. But when that became no longer socially acceptable, people turned it into forms of like mainstream entertainment, like horror movies, slasher films. And another form that we took this on is by inflicting suffering on ourselves, like, and then like that's our output, I guess. But that's just a theory.
Okay, mental illness theory.
Oh.
But what was I saying? What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, I feel like the like fascination with like the macabre and stuff is not even new because like gothic like culture back at like not talking about goth right now, but like actually like Edgar Allan Poe era people, like there always has been. It's natural that humans like have this fascination with like morbid and melancholic things, but at a certain, it shouldn't turn fascination into romanticization. You know, there should be a line between. It's like, important how you.
Your life. Like,
right.
It's like the people who like they're like. It's like the people that are like, oh, gore isn't even that bad. Like I watch gore for fun. I watch it while I eat actually, and then they'll send it to like normal people, and then they're like.
Oh gosh, yeah, and I get like you do you, but you shouldn't be like talking about. Oh my gosh, why are you so scared of gore? Gore is so normal.
And it's usually the people who like say stuff like that like try to appear mentally ill because they know that like liking gore is something that is not obviously socially accepted because like no one says like, oh yeah, I love gore, I love watching people like bleed out and die. So like when they say that kind of stuff, it's like because they want to be seen as mentally ill. They want to be seen as different.
I'm so psycho. I'm so crazy.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, you're not psycho.
Like the yandere trope.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is literally that. People romanticizing like
obsession.
Yeah, obsession, not even obsession. Mental illness, murder. Like people don't realize that this is not an actual depiction of like mentally ill people. This is like meant to be. Fiction. This is entertainment.
It's fiction.
You shouldn't make entertainment into reality. What? You shouldn't see anime and TV shows and stuff as an actual reflection of reality.
This is like another thing.
Oh, sorry.
You have to let that out,
yeah.
This is another thing that was discussed, like the separation of media from real life. Like as I mentioned in our past episode, like Nara Smith, she's supposed to be like this basically fictional character. Like she's not supposed to be a real life standard. But as humans, our brains have not developed quickly enough to like realize the distinction between
reality,
media we consume and real life. Like we can't even tell the difference between like TV shows that we watch and real life. What makes you think that we would be able to tell the distinction between social media and real life?
Right.
Or like games.
Yeah, entertainment should not be like a replacement for the news or anything.
Be mimicked. Like, because like I remember when people were so obsessed with Yandere Simulator and like the idea of being like.
Don't call me out like that.
No, because I actually really like the game, not the developer, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
Like Yandere Dev is weird.
Right.
But like people were so obsessed with the idea of being so obsessed with somebody that they would kill for them.
Right.
So then they started portraying this like character online, like, oh, I'm a Yandere. I would kill for him. I love him so much. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
and that's like the problem with people making these things into like kind of personality traits. Like, people don't realize that psychopaths are like an actual mental disorder that people go to insane asylums for. Like, you're not you're
locked up for saying
right. You're so psycho. You're so like. Psycho Teddy.
Psycho killer.
Right.
Like, no.
Oh my gosh, psycho killer. Oh my gosh, people romanticizing like Jeffrey Dahmer when Dahmer came.
Oh my god.
I hate Dahmer for what it did to the families of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer.
And they didn't even want the show to like be aired or anything. Like they didn't want to be reminded of something that affected them so deeply in the past.
Right.
Like imagine something so traumatic happened to you and someone's constantly reminding you that it happened when you want to forget and move on.
And oh my gosh, and it's the fact Netflix knew what they were doing because they posted that S word right before Halloween, and they tried to do it like, oh no, we're just showing the reality. Yeah, we're just showing the reality of what goes into the mind. Like, no, you were doing that so people would stream it for Halloween and people would dress up for Halloween so you could get it trending. That's sick. don't talk to me about that.
The way people actually dressed up as Dahmer too, like
right,
oh
like
my
oh my
god,
god,
like y'all are so strange.
I feel
Right.
like this also manifests itself in our daily language too. Like when you go scrolling on social media, you just feel this. I am obsessed with this new product or blah blah blah.
Like, are you obsessed?
Obsession is
right.
like a whole thing.
It has
It's
become
Right.
like no, because people use that word too like languidly.
Right.
Like when you're do you understand what it means to be obsessed with something? Like
Right.
come,
like
mm.
yeah,
constantly
hyperbole.
think about it 24/7,
This is
you have an emotional
Like,
attachment,
right.
like,
This is why
you feel
recognizing hyperbole is so important because like people
media literacy, guys.
like
media literacy,
Right.
quite literally.
Oh my god.
What literally?
Yeah,
Like,
we need to teach media literacy in schools.
we do.
We
It's called
do.
English class.
Right.
I feel like I've said this so many times before. Like,
yeah.
genuinely, people need to understand that some things that are created and showcased in media are meant to only be media. They are not meant to be recreated.
Right. And obviously, like media and stuff can reflect reality.
Yeah.
But that's a different thing from like actual fiction. Like people shouldn't.
Media is supposed to reflect reality.
Like
reality is not supposed to reflect.
No, right? Because
Paradox. I love paradoxes.
Because there's a thing called realistic fiction, but there's a
Right.
reason like there's
Fiction exists.
Fiction exists. Like, do
Word
like
fiction.
like please realize that like even if it can happen doesn't mean it should.
Right.
It doesn't mean it should. Like just because like oh yeah people do like become really obsessed with their crush that they might even kill for them. Like yes that has happened. Doesn't mean you should do it just because you want to seem like a yandere. Like what?
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
No, you're not.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're
I
not.
want him so bad. He's all I think about.
No, he's not.
No.
Well, I mean,
I mean that's true sometimes.
it is, sometimes
But
it
you
is.
shouldn't be
around saying,
right.
like, I'm obsessed with it.
But like,
Right. You
and
shouldn't be
if it's
making
all
that
he's
your
think-
personality.
if he's all you think about, please get help. Like that's concerning because sometimes like no need to hate on or I don't mean to hate on boy crazy people, but sometimes when y'all let that man consume your entire life, I fear for you. I truly fear for you because what do you mean? Everything you do is for your boyfriend. Everything. Oh my god.
Right. And this is again going back to people fetishization and people like romanticizing like trad couples and stuff. Like yeah, I'm not okay.
Oh my god.
I'm not one of those people that are like you're a trad wife. Trad wife is their problem. If you want to be like trad wife, that's your choice.
That's like the whole point of feminism. Like you're supposed
Right.
to be allowed a choice.
Right.
You want.
It's about choices. But it shouldn't be to the point where you're just making an excuse to be like what's misogynistic.
Right.
Yes, and you shouldn't like try to impose it on others. Like that's where the real problem comes from. The whole point is to have a choice.
Right.
Like you can be a trad wife yourself, but you shouldn't force someone else to not go out and work. That's like that speech that dude made when he graduated like the medical school.
Oh
like,
yeah.
The first time my wife started living was when she became a mother or something. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it was this guy going to like a woman's like college graduation, and he was like, "All you women, you're told your whole life that you have a choice and stuff," and like, yes, it's okay if you want to be a mother. People don't. Oh my gosh, that's another thing. People like, oh, I hate feminism because
sorry, feminists, I can cook.
Yeah, because I want to be like a stay-at-home wife because that's so much easier. That's like people like not understanding that motherhood is so difficult and its own thing. Like, oh my gosh, people. Okay, wait, this is off topic. Let's circle back.
Let's circle back, guys. Like another thing is like mental illness. Talking about people who, like mental illness in like immigrant households. Like specifically about like how like if you ever believe that you're like you have a mental illness or like a mental disability or anything like of that sort and you live like in an immigrant household, they will fully like rebuke you. Like they would be like, "What you like?" Honestly, at the time when I told my mom that I thought I was depressed, or like when I would be like, "I'm sad," and she'd be like, "What's wrong?" and I'd be like, "No reason. Like I'm just sad." She's like, "I rebuke you," and she'll say, "What? Oh my god!" And like sometimes I'm just sad, but like I see.
But you would say, "I rebuke you."
Yeah, like no, because I get it though, because sometimes we get in our own head, like we get in our like over our head, thinking like oh my gosh, everything that's happening to me right now is because like I'm ill or I'm really depressed or something, and it's really not that way. But sometimes if it happens to actually be that way in an immigrant household, they fully just decline and reject the idea of you ever having illness.
Right.
Because like I've seen so many instances where there's been like an African or like an immigrant household where their like son or their daughter is clearly autistic or clearly like is struggling with something, but they refuse to acknowledge it and allow them to get help.
Right.
Because they're like, there's no, because like they believe like, especially if they believe in God, they will say like, oh well, God will never allow my child to be autistic. But your child is autistic. That's the truth. Like, yes,
that's the way God made them.
Like that's no right, because that's the way God made them. You have to accept your child for who they are. If they're autistic, they have OCD. If they're anxious, if they have depression, so be it. Who cares?
Right.
Like, even if they are any of those things, just because like you believe in God and you think that like, oh well, God will never let that happen. Well, God makes each and every person.
Well, God did make that
happen.
happen.
God, like I'm someone who strongly believes in God. And God makes everyone a certain way for a reason.
Right.
Like, just because you believe in your mind, like, oh, God would never allow it. Because a lot of people, sorry, I'm talking really fast, but a lot of people have these negative connotations about people with, like, autism. They're, like they would, like, the idea of having an autistic child, like, brings fear to them. Like, they're like, I would never want that. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy.
It's a disability. It's like a mental.
Yeah, like, and like I understand that like it's a lot of work to have to raise a child that has any sort of mental disorder,
but they're not gonna change.
To not raise
right.
Them
yeah, or like fully rebuke the idea of them being that way.
Oh my gosh, rebuke.
But yeah, I think a lot of the like, especially for like immigrant households, it's a lot of like people not understanding what these mental disorders are
because they weren't fully exposed to it.
Like I remember talking to this one person, and she was talking about how she has ADHD, but she was talking about how when she first like started showing signs of ADHD, her mom told her that she wasn't ADHD because she wasn't crazy and moving around all the time, when that's not what ADHD is. It's a spectrum, and it can affect them in a lot of ways, and it's why it's so important to educate people on mental disorder and like the actual symptoms of it, because a lot of like people telling, oh, you're not autistic, you're not ADHD, it's because they don't understand what it actually is. They have like this idea of like stereotypes and like the way media
they enforce on other people. They're like, since you don't look this way, since you don't act this way,
you
can't be autistic.
You don't look autistic. You don't look depressed.
Like, what does that mean?
It's what do you not understand about mental? It is a mental disorder.
Exactly, it's in their mind. It's not something you can physically see.
Right.
Like even if like, oh, you can see like maybe like, oh, they
develop mental. Like,
yeah.
Right.
But like even so, like you can't look at someone and be like, oh yeah, you don't look autistic. You're not autistic. Like I've seen so many people who have like came out on TikTok or social media and be like, oh yeah, I'm autistic, and they're like someone who's like really pretty and like they fit the like beauty standard. So then people are like, oh, you can't be autistic because
or they make them into like fetish, like
it's people.
I hate medic.
Yes, and people like they don't understand that, especially for people with like disabilities like autism and stuff. Most people have developed that from a very, very young age, and they've been able to develop a way to hide that part of themselves. Yeah, they've been able to mask themselves, and that's why people are like, oh, you don't look autistic, oh, you don't act autistic. Yeah, because they've dealt with that their entire life, that they've been able to hide it in the deepest part of themselves.
Yeah, either they mask their like how they actually are, or they like whenever they're talking to someone, they mirror their personality. They like behave how they see someone else acting, because they say
they think
a normal person, because they understand that like, hey, I'm different from this person, but I don't want to be like targeted because I'm different, so I'm going to mirror the personality of someone else. And that's usually when like autistic people get accused of being like copy. Oh, like this person's copying me. No, they just like believe like this is the optimal way to behave in a certain situation, because they don't know how to like read social cues sometimes.
Right.
So they copy you because they feel like you're acting like the most like way that you would want someone to react in a situation. And like I've seen this like one girl, she makes really good like skits of like what it's like to be autistic, and like how like sometimes someone would tell her something, and since she's autistic, she doesn't understand like if it's like meant to be in a sad way or a happy way. So like she won't know whether to be like, oh, I'm really sorry that happened, or congratulations, because she can't properly read how they're speaking. Because like sometimes you're telling something like, "Hey, my dog died," and like someone who someone who doesn't understand how to like read like that, like, oh, you're obviously sad about that. They might think like, should I say sorry? Should I like?
It's because they don't understand, because literally they cannot read the social cue. So like, and then people will get mad at them, be like, oh my gosh, how could you say that? I'm literally going through such a rough time. They literally
they don't understand.
They can't do it.
They can't fully process the fact that oh, this is a bad thing for you, because they don't like, unless you're outright saying it, like, hey, I'm really sad that my dog died. They're not gonna know that you're sad, because they're not mind readers, obviously. And like for like people like us who are neurotypical, like when we see someone say like, oh yeah, my dog died, it's heavily implied that like, yeah, they're sad because no one's gonna be happy that their dog died. But for someone who is neurodivergent, they might not be able to read those implications. So when someone says, hey, my dog died, they're gonna be like, okay, anyways, because unless you're saying it outright, they're never gonna like fully understand like, hey, this is how I feel.
And this is the problem of like kind of like manners and stuff, because like, yes, it is important to have empathy, but like for people like me, I find it really hard to like address serious situations, because I just never know what to say, because I'm always scared that like I might say the wrong thing and that make them more upset.
Yes, sir.
And so like, it's important to have empathy and to show that you're caring, but this is gonna sound a little mean. You are not entitled to people like dealing with you, like
especially when people. Sorry, I cut you off. But especially when people like are venting to someone.
Yeah, that's what I was about. Yeah.
Okay, no, you can continue with that.
It's like, I'm sorry. I feel like I cut you off.
No,
but
like,
it's okay.
Especially when like someone is like venting to someone, and they get to a certain point where they're like saying the same thing, and someone has already comforted them and given them advice, but they refuse to take this advice. And then like when that person's like, okay, I don't know how I can help you anymore. I don't want to listen to your problems anymore because I'm exhausted. Like I'm emotionally exhausted from listening to you complain about the same things over and over again, especially when it's stuff that you can fix yourself, but you choose not to. And then they're like, and then like as soon as you say that, they get like very offended. They're like, oh, how could you say that? Like, like why do you not have empathy? Like no, they've empathized with you. It's just you refuse to like understand that this is a person. This is not your like trauma.
Yeah, this is not your personal therapist. Like that's what I say. Obviously, it's really important that you're able to be emotionally vulnerable with the people you're close to. Yeah. But at a certain point, they should. This is why it's important to have multiple friends and boundaries and stuff like that, because one person should not be your like therapist. Yeah, they should not be like your dumpster that you throw all of your problems into, because obviously it's important that you have friends that are empathetic, but those people have problems too. And it also frustrates me when people like that vent a lot. As soon as the other person starts venting them back, they somehow make it about themselves. Like it's like right. And like you have to understand that yes, that they are not responsible for you. That sounds mean, but they are not responsible for your problems.
Neither are they responsible for your mental health. They are not like, you are not going through this because of them. Like you can't blame all your problems on someone else, unless maybe they are the problem. But like usually your friend is trying to help you, especially when it's like your friend advising you like, hey, you should get professional help because I can't help you in the way that you would want to be helped. And then you start getting annoyed because you're like, oh, do you not care about me? Blah, 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 blah. No, they care. That's why they're advising you to get because if they didn't care, they would just like let you go on and on and on and look like a dang idiot, like complaining about stuff that can easily be fixed if you got professional help.
Unless your friend is like an actual therapist, most of the time they're not gonna know the right thing to do,
say or do.
And also I'm not for people always being like, oh, you just need therapy, oh, you just need to talk to someone, because one, therapy is really freaking expensive, and especially telling somebody who that might be like, you know, less well off to just get therapy is really tone deaf for me, because I've had people like tell me that. I'm like,
with what money?
Like I need to eat, I need to pay my rent.
It's so hard to live.
Especially right now, and that's why for me I get this kind of like icky feeling from people that like I obviously it's important that therapists should be paid well, because they have to deal with like mentally disordered people, but at a certain point, should therapy be costing like $500,000
a session?
Yeah, because should we really be commodifying off of
Getting
mentally ill people?
Like healthcare. That's a whole debate.
Right. This is like getting too political for me, but like, yeah, like that's just how I feel.
Yeah, guys, stop using your friends as therapists. Because as someone who has been the therapist friend, you can talk here. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you could go.
Just cut me off.
Like,
just cut me off.
And circling back.
Gee, speak your truth. It's okay.
Say what you want.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The topic of immigrant families and mental illness.
Oh.
Like a lot of
Sorry, my microphone.
A lot of lower class families who often happen to be minorities. Like one, like it's so hard to even access mental like illness treatment and mental health in general. And two, like it's not so much looked upon as like a normal thing in those communities. Like your immigrant parents probably came and fled from like, I know like my grandparents, they're not really big on like mental health and all that. And it's because like it's one of those things where it's like I've seen this before. I'm sorry, this is like me getting into my like human rights type thing.
Yes.
But
it's okay.
but like when you're fleeing war and poverty and hunger, you don't have time to focus on like mental health and like
right. You have to focus on surviving.
Freedoms.
Right.
Like you have to like focus on getting through to the next day before focusing on getting up. You know what I mean?
And like many times I think that like because like our immigrant parents, like in the past all you needed to like really think about was like making sure you had food on the table, making sure you had like a roof over your head.
Right.
Because they think that like once you have these things you should be like content.
Because they never had those.
Exactly.
Right.
So like they're providing you with what they would have wanted. But like now that you like have these things.
Hi guys, this is Kyra to conclude because the rest of our audio for the episode cut out and we don't know why. We're really sorry that we haven't uploaded in a month or two or a few, but we're back. Subscribe, follow us, send us topics, like, we love you. But basically, to sum up everything that we said in the episode, romanticization of mental illness stems from several things such as media and people wanting to have a safe space but turning it into something that they want to aspire to. It's bad. It belittles the experiences of people who actually have mental illnesses and people with mental disabilities. We understand that it is difficult to get a diagnosis sometimes, so sometimes people do self-diagnose, and this stems from romanticization of mental illness, so it's another effect. But, like, especially if you live in an immigrant household, but you also shouldn't rely on other people to be your therapist if you can't access that type of medical care. You are not entitled to someone being your therapist or giving you the reaction that you want. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to send us topics. And this was 2.5 Minorities. Thank you for listening. Bye!